Hello, my name is Joanna Raisbeck. I'm a lecturer here at the University of Oxford where I teach translation, and today I'm going to have a discussion with Hannah and Colleen, and we're going to talk about a text by Franz Kafka called Der Kaufmann. It's a short story called The Tradesman in English translation.
Hi, I'm Hannah Hodges. I'm a second year French and German student. I study at St. Peter's College, and I did German as a beginner's course last year.
Hi, I'm Colleen Cumbers. I'm also a second year, and I also do French and German, having started German last year, and I'm at Oriel College.
Okay, great. Well, it's a relatively short text, but there's a lot going on in it. So could you just kind of outline what plot we have here, if you can even call it a plot?
I think that essentially it's about a workman's daily life, and he turns up to work. He briefly discusses his worries that he has at work, and then we get quite a detailed description of his trip home and kind of what concerns crop up on this journey from work to home. So at the surface level, I think that's what's happening.
Okay. Yes. And what kind of spaces do we move through then on his journey?
So he'll start off seemingly in his workplace, and when he's talking about his worries, then he walks home, which seems to be a sort of transition period, and then he arrives back to his apartment, I think, and goes in an elevator up to where he lives, and each place is described quite differently and in a lot of detail, and there's not really much action or narrative. It's just this sort of intense detail of his thoughts, what's happening.
Yeah. So what's so interesting about his thoughts? How does this keep us kind of engaged as readers? If we kind of start off thinking about we've got the very, very first line here, and it's just simply kind of left there, unqualified, not expanded upon. So es ist möglich, dass einige Leute Mitleid mit mir haben, aber ich spüre nichts davon. It's possible that some people are sorry for me or have pity for me, perhaps you could also say, but I'm not aware of it, or I don't sense any of that. If we stick slightly more closely to the German. Why do you think he starts off in this way, our character?
It's interesting because you immediately start thinking then why would people, have pity for him, be sorry for him, and all we know about him is that he's the Kaufmann, the tradesman. We don't know his name, we don't know any details about him, we don't find out anything about him. He's just this figure who, when we just have the title, we think he's maybe quite privileged in society. He's probably got some money, and sort of a middle class man. So we're sort of wondering what's wrong that people feel sorry for him.
Yes. Or why should perhaps he feel that people might feel sorry for him? Do you can you think of any reasons why at all?
Well, I think it's...
Because you're absolutely right, he's prestigious, sort of prestigious position.
It's like almost verging on the ironic, because later, or almost straight away, for Stunden, like for hours, he then explains his work process in quite kind of lengthy, that it's difficult, it's kind of, it's a demanding job, and then he's very aware of money and what other people are doing, and so the paragraph beginning mein Geld, haben fremde Leute, so my money, other people, strangers have it, is kind of setting himself in comparison to other people, and it implies that he's feeling quite sorry for himself, that he's not in as kind of a privileged position as these other people who, or depending on their whims, his money's dependent, and so even though he claims to not be aware of why other people might feel sorry for him, it's actually kind of strangely that he's feeling sorry for himself.
Oh, that's a very nice thought. There's actually a kind of internalised pity in some way. Do you think that's justified?
I think you sort of think he's obviously got this business, he should be, the boss, he's in charge, he owns it, but like you were saying, mein Geld haben fremde Leute, they have the money.
Yes.
They kind of have this power over him, even though he should be the one who has the power. Actually, he's of the people who work for him, his customers, he's constantly having to worry about their actions and how their actions will affect him. So he relies on them.
Yes.
And that's why I think he feels sort of sorry for himself that he doesn't have this position that maybe you think initially he might have.
So he doesn't have the kind of control that you might think that he'd have in this position. And you're talking about the kind of the move from the second paragraph to the third paragraph. So in the second paragraph, that's talking about his responsibilities. And that the customers as well, he has to work out what do the customers want. I have to adjust things in accordance with fashions of people who don't belong to my social circle. What can I possibly do? And then it's mein Geld haben fremde Leute, strangers have my money. What do you make of this third paragraph? Particularly the second part of it. Mein Geld haben fremde Leute, ihre Verhältnisse können mir nicht deutlich sein, so the state of their affairs, or whatever their financial affairs have to be, are unclear to me or a mystery. But then we got this kind of thought beginning in the middle. Vielleicht sind sie verschwenderisch geworden und geben ein Fest in einem Wirtshausgarten und andere halten sich für ein Weilchen auf der Flucht nach Amerika bei diesem Fest darauf. It's a very odd thought. Perhaps they are running into extravagance and giving a banquet in some inn garden. Some of them may be attending the banquet as a brief respite before their flight to America.
I think it's very seemingly like irrational thoughts. It's natural to worry if you have a business about certain things, but he seems to be taking this to another level and sort of letting his mind kind of run wild in a way.
Okay, very nice.
Itself with all these concerns that he has.
Yes, and how is his mind kind of? What is the implication of this statement that there's this great kind of party going on in somewhere and people are, about to flee to the States?
It's quite the glamorized goal image of capitalism, that he's kind of sure is happening, but he's not able to reach it, and that other people kind of are banqueting while they've got his money and he's here suffering at work.
Okay, because could they be this goal of capitalism? At the risk of sounding like I'm being too much, is there an element of exploitation here, that he feels he might be being exploited by the people in financial control?
Yes, and I feel that there's a distance between the text is kind of estrangement between what the Kaufmann has to do and the people that are going to America, and then later we will see his kind of images of freedom that might not be real, but that in his head that this is happening. So he feels quite separated from the kind of end product of his work. And
yes, absolutely. There is this feeling that he's kind of just swept up in everything and doesn't really have any sort of autonomy in what he's doing at all. And how is that reflected when we then get a sense of his emotional state at the end of the day as well? The next paragraph, when we say, dann wirft sich meine am Morgen weit vorausgeschichte Aufregung in mich wie eine zurückkehrende Flut, hält es aber in mir nicht aus und ohne Ziel reißt sie mich mit. Then the excitement which I drove far away from me in the morning comes back like a returning tide that cannot be contained in me and sweeps me aimlessly away with it. Why excitement? Why Aufregung? That's an interesting choice. I think we talked about it in terms of worries, concerns.
I think it's something which seems deeper than his worries about work, and I feel that maybe sort of speaking about his work and letting out concerns there, which seems quite like a sort of rational way of doing it and socially acceptable, is actually maybe disguising some kind of deeper concerns or worries that he has in himself, and that's why even when he turns the key and leaves, this worry never leaves, and it returns like this flood, this flood.
Okay, so he's distracting himself with his work, but actually there's all this kind of feeling bubbling away underneath that comes to the fore.
Yeah.
And would you agree with that?
Yeah, I also thought that the idea, so this kind of builds up this excitement, almost like in kind of very normal terms, like the end of the day, work is done.
Yep.
And then it comes immediately back to und doch kann ich diese Laune gar nicht benutzen. That he has kind of opportunity to perhaps enjoy his free time, but actually he can't. And so kind of on the wave of excitement for a very small amount of time before it crashes again, and he kind of realises that there is nothing other than his work that he kind of has to do because he can't use this.
Yeah, why can't he use this mood, which kind of is like anxiety, but it's positively. I think it's positively connected here, that he could go out and enjoy himself and go to the pub or something like that, or do something social, do something constructive.
I'm not sure like that it's said exactly, but as Colleen was saying, that he has all these worries about work, and perhaps they're so kind of ingrained in him that this almost disorientating kind of passage home away from work, he doesn't really know what to do with himself kind of without work, and he's alone, and you could say that he doesn't have perhaps the money to enjoy the time, but I think it's more that he's so kind of defined himself according to his work.
Yeah, that it's impossible for him to break, so he would like to perhaps get out of this cycle, but he can't because he's so limited by his own understanding of what he is. Is that a fair way? Do you think that's a fair way?
I think so. I think there seems to be sort of a like physical or sort of spatial limitation as well, because he sort of, when he's walking home, it seems like for a while there is an opportunity for him to kind of let out some of this sort of excitement that he has. He sort of talks about sort of physical things. He does like klappere mit den Fingern bei der Hände, sort of snapping the fingers, caressing the hair of any children he meets, things like that, but then it's such a short walk home that it seems like he doesn't have enough sort of either spatial or like time to let out this excitement, and then it has to be contained once again.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of a representation of the kind of internal having to sort of suppress things and...
Sure, and the fact it's only in his hands that he can kind of has any kind of form of expression here. And it's also very conventional in what he's doing, kind of, putting his hands through children's hair and things like that. Is that his freedom? So it's kind of brief moment of freedom outside, and then he returns to his home where he's suddenly entrapped again. Is that it? That seems like a very bleak vision of respite.
I think we do get that image though, especially in the parts that we've just been talking about are like quite long sentences, and then aber der Weg ist kurz, and then that is it, and then
it's too short. Yes.
He's immediately back home, and so we get that like brief kind of moment of the wave of kind of freedom. It's quite short.
Yes, ich gehe dann wie auf Wellen. So we have the flood, the kind of the imagery that goes on, and then tide, flood, and then we have I'm walking as if on waves in some way. What did you make of that image? That really, I mean, the flood, the kind of the tide or flood didn't stand out to me as much upon reading as ich gehe dann wie auf Wellen. I'm walking as if I'm on waves.
The idea with waves of things kind of always returning, like things never fully go there, something's carried away, but then it's carried back. And so the idea of kind of the worries or the concerns that he has at work, they might go away for this brief time while he's walking home, but they sort of then return again. And when you have the aber der Weg ist kurz, like in meinem Hause, you'd think, arriving home after work would be something positive, but because you've got the aber, it seems like it's quite this negative thing. He's trapped again. This, walk is only a bit of freedom, and so he's walking on the waves because the negative things are going to be sort of pulled back to him again.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Would you?
No, I thought this is kind of similar imagery. Yes.
I was wondering whether we could think of walking as if I'm on waves, and think about the idea of control as well. How much control? If you're walking on waves, how much control do you have over your movements?
Yeah, absolutely, basically none. But
why is that?
the tide is always, it tends to be presented as a master force of nature, and it's controlled by the moon. And so if he's walking on waves, he is in no control of like the rhythm that they're going, and they're going to come crashing. So he goes in a very precarious position, and you don't think that he's in control of the situation.
Yeah, so even if he has this kind of brief moment of enjoyment, it's actually his kind of control or his autonomy is still compromised in some way.
You could think of, it might be sort of stretching it a bit far, but you could think of waves as being a bit like sort of the financial market in the same way. It's like not being able to control it. So when he's talking about, sort of his customers, and he doesn't know what's going to happen with whether they're going to buy things and come back to him, it's sort of the not being able to control things, you're sort of, relying on something else. And so, yes, you're meant to be in charge and you're sort of walking on the waves. You might look like you kind of have this power, but actually you're being controlled and you have no autonomy.
Yes, so absolutely right. That's very nice. Kind of this idea that he's almost internalised this instability, this financial instability. Okay, very nice. So, what of when he gets into the lift? You get this sudden shift into this monologue that he has, and that seems. What did you make of that?
I think it's kind of evidence of perhaps him not being a kind of identity which is not very sure of itself, and that he's speaking to himself, and it comes across as kind of one voice saying him to kind of fly, why don't you kind of fly away?
Yep.
And then the other voice saying, kind of the controlling voice, and if that's what you want to do, then that's fine. And also the idea of having a mirror there kind of doubles his image as well, and so he's kind of almost like a split personality, and like two voices within one person. Okay,
so you read this as he's alienated from himself in some way, and he has this. What kind of fantasy is this? What did you think of it?
I thought it was sort of the idea of the lift, sort of obviously travelling up. It's kind of like a metaphor for sort of a heightened reality in a way, and sort of all these, possibilities, like you're saying, these things he could do. But like the example of robbing someone, which is obviously, something going against the law, so something you can't do in society. Yeah, so it's sort of breaking away from society's control somehow.
But does it matter? Is he imagining of life as a vagabond, that he could go and have complete autonomy and pickpocket as he likes? How is that moment presented in the text? So you have this kind of not particularly noticeable individual, this inconspicuous man. You go and rob him, and then everyone goes on their way.
I think just sort of, he doesn't, want to do something bad. I feel like that's not the idea. I think it's more the idea that he just wants to do something that isn't socially acceptable, something that he wouldn't normally be able to do in the normal sort of spheres of his life. And this, a bit like the walk home, this trip in the elevator is kind of, because he is completely alone there and secluded, he can imagine these things, and he's not under the controls of society, so his imagination can kind of think these possibilities.
Could do, yes, but even in his imagination we have the police there as well. Yeah. So we have some sort of instance of the law there. So even if he wanted to break out, if he wanted to read that, he's still got this kind of controlling image of the police. So could it be that this is kind of this weird pressure, this kind of weird tension that's coming out in this moment of imagination? What do you think? How did you think that?
Yeah, I think when we said earlier about him not being able to go away from work because these kind of pressures are ingrained on him, here I think he's having an imaginary conversation. You don't think that there should be kind of limits on his dream, and yet the polizei come in a physical presence in his dream to stop him, or to kind of reprimand him. And so the kind of social expectation, social order is all around, even in this kind of lift, which perhaps kind of represents kind of alternative reality, a moment of freedom. Yes. He's trapped there as well. Yes. So it kind of becomes a very claustrophobic kind of image of reality.
Yes. Okay. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think claustrophobia is a really good way of describing this text. And then what do you think, I mean, kind of a final thought to wrap up, do you think where he's going to next will offer any more respite at the very end?
It doesn't seem like it will. He seems to speak about it quite negatively, like he'll be alone again, and it seems like a similar idea to when he's at work in a way, which you obviously don't expect. But it seems that he goes there and he's sort of trapped once again.
I mean, there's a girl there of some sort.
Yeah.
I presume the maid, maybe. But even that seems a bit depersonalised in a way.
And the da muss ich aussteigen. Kind of, again, obviously the lift is at the end, but this idea that there's kind of a sequence home, this is what happens, it's not a kind of spontaneous kind of veil or anything like this.
No, so this is just one segment of his day and then it's going to continue onwards endlessly out of control. Okay, I think we've kind of covered quite a lot, so thank you both very much for your thoughts. That was very interesting.